what we're going to see next is an amazing, amazing story of a product brand. Now, I'm not going to go on about it. You all know what you're about to see. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up, invite to the stage James Moorhead, brand manager of Old Spice USA, and Wieden and Kennedy's account director in the US for Old Spice, Jess Monsey.
You know, the Old Spice brand has existed for a little over 70 years, and many of you may not know that it started out as a women's fragrance. It didn't work very well as a women's fragrance, and a little after, about a year into it, it was relaunched as a men's fragrance. And here we are today, you know, over the past 70 plus years, you know, been helping guys smell great. I'm going to kick us off here, and so we've been talking about, you know, you hear about viral and how do you go viral, and it's really just not about going viral. It's impossible to brief for viral, which I think all of us have heard from our agencies at this point. And for us, it's really about social engagement. And, you know, I think Babs said it earlier, how many of us are out there involved socially right now? A show of hands with Facebook users in the room. That's awesome. When I talk with P&G executives, actually very few hands go up. So I would echo the point earlier. It's just so hard to create great work if you're not engaged or be a part of it. And so we're going to talk about social engagement today, and I'll kick us off here. So everything that Old Spice does is really rooted in our brand purpose and helping guys navigate the seas of manhood. You know, we've been doing that for a long time, and all of the work is deeply rooted in that. So you'll see that theme come throughout today.
One of the things that, much to our chagrin, is true is that a lot of young guys who make up the bulk of our target do not spend a lot of time and energy pondering their deodorant and body wash choices. And in fact, a lot of traditional advertising is completely lost on them. They are much more likely, as Davey Boys was mentioning earlier, to seek out entertainment online and to gravitate towards pieces of content that they find cool, funny, interesting, or surprising. So a real goal for us collectively has been, how do we create high engagement in what is a very low involvement category? And we have set for a goal for ourselves to drive relevance with young guys, to be a brand that they love. And the word relevance, I think, often gets misinterpreted in the sense of, I'm going to hold up a mirror to you. Hey, I know what you look like and what you do with your day, so buy this product. But in this case, we're talking about relevance, and that this is a brand, I love the stuff that they do, and I want to be a part of.
You know, the other thing I'd say, and you know, we definitely don't have a perfect case study here. This is a journey for us as a team, learning on the go, and we keep talking about we got a lot of dirt roads out there, and we're trying to pave them and figure it out. So, you know, we're learning as we go here, which is of critical importance. You know, people ask us about the results, so just cover that up front. It's been awesome for the brand. It's propelled us to be the #1 brand in dollar and volume in the two core categories, body wash and deodorant. You know, and roughly 1 in 4 guys are now using the Old Spice brand. When P&G picked up the brand, it was about a 4-share brand. So it's been phenomenally successful for the brand. Since 07, 08, we've been able to decrease our overall investment from a media perspective, and that's really been a part of us figuring out digital as a team and really engaging with our guys in that space. You know, digital is a huge part of our mix, and obviously a major platform that we're spending most of our time in. You know, as I think about the insights that led into the campaign we're going to talk about today, I couldn't be a P&G'er without talking about our who, or the insights that led into it. And so the first piece was, you know, we call our guys the digital couch potatoes. You know, we could probably look around the room at some of us here. You've got a TV on, you're on the computer, and you've got your mobile phone, you're texting. You know, our guys are using all 3 of these mediums very fluidly. And so we knew that to reach them, we really needed to engage them across all of those mediums in the places that they were searching for content. And then we knew that they loved to share stuff. I think we just heard of a great example from Davey Boys, you know, of how you know, people just love to pass great stuff along. And so we were trying to think about creating social currency that guys can, you know, feel some passion for as they pass it along. The second major insight for us, and this was really a shift from where we've been as a brand, over the last 70 years, we felt like guys for the longest time were really influencing the purchases that were happening in the household. So they were talking to their wives or their girlfriends or whoever the primary shopper was in the family and saying, I want this product specifically. And that's definitely still true for what I would call some of the higher risk products that we have, like deodorant, where sweating would be, call it higher risk than, say, what your body wash smells like in the shower. And so what we found was actually in the lower risk categories or body wash, women were making the purchase for their guys. They were making the decision, and 60+% of the time they were bringing home whatever they wanted for their men. And if you think about helping guys navigate the seas of manhood, that was a really important insight for us.
So we're going to set the stage for all the work that you're about to see a little bit. Right around the time that we were starting to marinate over what we were going to do next from a campaign standpoint, we got the big news via a press release that Dove for Men was going to be launching in the United States. It looked to be that there was going to be a ton of media spending around it. They mentioned launching during the Super Bowl, which clearly buys a lot of eyeballs, particularly in the North American market. And one of the things that was very interesting to us as a business challenge was, Dove has an extraordinary fan base when it comes to women, and as James just alluded to, we had this insight that when it comes to body wash, we know that women are influencing the purchase decision quite a bit more than with our other products. So we began to kind of think about the implications of all of these women just flocking to Dove for Men as soon as it hit the shelves, and this set up a really interesting competitive conundrum for us. The brief is always extraordinarily important, and a great brief is half the battle. In this case, we spent a lot of time collectively, James, myself, our strategic planner, and our creative directors, talking about how we could uniquely position Old Spice, both as a brand in total, but then also as a body wash within this increasingly complicated, competitive context. So one of the first decisions that we made, based on the insight, again, that James had mentioned before, was that we definitely wanted to do work that was going to resonate with our core target, which is young guys. But in this case, for the first time, we decided that we were going to target women as well. So that was huge, and very exciting to us because it is something we had talked about doing in the past. But what was really interesting from an insight standpoint is you have to wonder if women are choosing a lot of the body washes for their men. Does that mean all these men are going to start smelling like strawberries and cream? Like, is that sexy? Is that manly? I personally wouldn't want my husband to smell exactly like me. I think that's a little weird. So we started talking about that idea quite a bit, and had a lot of funny conversation. And that led to the main idea of the brief, which was, let's tell guys, if you want to smell like a real man, you should smell like Old Spice, and give women the impression that if you want your man to be the ideal man, he should be using Old Spice body wash. So that was the basis for the brief, and the work that you're about to see was resultant from that.
Look at your man. Now back to me. Now back to your man. Now back to me. Sadly, he isn't. But if he stopped using lady-scented body wash and switched to Old Spice, he could smell like he's me. Look down, back up. Where are you? You're on a boat with the man your man could smell. What's in your hand? Back at me. I have. It's an oyster with 2 tickets to that thing you love. Look again. The tickets are now diamond. Anything is possible when your man smells like Old Spice and not a lady. I'm on board.
One of the first decisions we made from a media standpoint was that we weren't going to spring to invest in the Super Bowl. It just was not something that we felt like doing at the time. But we did think, something really interesting could potentially come of all of this work if it's of the quality that we believe it to be. And that is, if we are smart and we launch our work right around the time of the Super Bowl and make some strategic placements in terms of digital media, and if the work is of the quality that we think that it is, we could potentially become a part of that post-Super Bowl, ad bowl conversation by default just because we're there. And we're very happy to see that that actually did manifest itself in that way. And in fact, a lot of people thought that the spot had actually run during the Super Bowl, and still do when you look at media reports that talk about it. The second big piece of the media strategy that we were very excited about was because the spot has this literal kind of distinction between Isaiah and your man in it, and he says to you, ladies, look at your men, now look at me. Wouldn't it be funny to actually put the spot in media environments where couples are sitting there together so you could actually physically experience the dialogue with him? So we launched the spot in cinema right around Valentine's Day, which was when a big movie named Valentine's Day launched in the US, and of course that's a couples movie. And then also launched it during media platforms that we knew had a high percentage of both men and women viewers. So Lost, American Idol, and the Olympics. And incidentally, just because the Lost logo was up there, one of the first indicators that we had that this campaign was really successful was we were reading the New York Times editorial about Lost, just because a lot of us follow Lost in the office. And one of the recaps of the episode actually started with a dialogue about our spot, and that was really an exciting moment for all of us on the team.
And I think back to when we actually were sitting in the room evaluating the ideas, you know, the dialogue between Isaiah and the audience, or trying to inspire that engagement and dialogue, was something that just sparked an immediate relevance to the group. And you know, as many of us do, we go home and share the idea with our wives or husbands. You know, we kind of knew that we just had a gut feel that there was going to be a spark there. And then to see the different media outlets, whoever was covering these different, whether it was sports or entertainment, instead of covering what they were normally supposed to be blogging about, they were writing about the advertising. Talk about paid versus earned. There's just there's something we can't, you know, some of that magic that was captured in that dialogue, and asking consumers to engage back and forth together.
I love that commercial where I'm about to buy me some Old Spice.
I like Jay and Dante's chances in the fantasy around the horn. Go the Old Spice to start. Let's go to work. Look at your ball. Now back to me.
Ladies, now back to me. This is an Old Spice ad that aired during the Super Bowl.
It is so fun.
Old Spice commercial means I say it now.
This Old Spice commercial.
Well, they were only take a look at the best commercials of the year. A couple of them I think you would find to be very funny, including that one there for our friends.
So we had this animal, sort of tiger by the tail situation, and we were sitting down talking about how do we take it to the next level. You know, I kind of love to go back to that first conversation. Jess, we got to do something, and it's got to be bigger and better than the last one. And
Oh dear.
the response from her was not great. So if you think of some of the great sequels, Godfather 2 or Empire Strikes Back and some others, we set the bar really high, and you know, set out to achieve that.
How are you? Fantastic. Does your man look like me? No. Can he smell like me? Yes. Should he use Old Spice body wash? I don't know. Do you like the smell of adventure? Do you want a man who smells like he can bake you a gourmet cake in the dream kitchen he built for you with his own hands? Of course I do. Swan night. Into the best night of your life. So ladies, should your man smell like an Old Spice man? You tell me.
In the first campaign, we really relied on, the first part, we really relied on TV media quite heavily, and then also had a digital component to the campaign. But in the second phase, we thought it would be really interesting to bring new dimension to the Man Your Man Can Smell Like. So we did some print, which effectively was eye candy in women's magazines, kind of like pin-up ads for women. And then, you know, typically we're not a huge proponent of, I guess, traditional display advertising, but in this case, because we had such a recognizable and endearing face in Isaiah Mustafa, we did display ads for both men and women utilizing him, and then we had a presence in all of our owned media properties where people might search and come to for Old Spice information.
Again, sort of the key question is how do you continue to raise the bar? And we've been talking about engagement with consumers at a deeper level, and we found tons of people were reaching out to the brand for the first time, engaging with the brand for the first time, posting things on our different channels, and it was really a one-way conversation actually back to us that time versus us to them. And so, the question came up really about how do we deepen our engagement with consumers. And a question to the group here, just as we go through this, how do you turn your brand engagement with consumers, into your content? And I think just as we go through that, think through that as a way to do that.
We were given the challenge by James and his team to let people interact with the Man Your Men Could Smell Like on a more deeper level. And then we all sat in a room and talked about it. And the response campaign was really born when one of the guys on our team, Ian Tate, said, how cool would it be if you could actually have Isaiah respond to people with videos on YouTube in real time. And it was just a magic sentence that somebody said, and we were like, now that is a really interesting idea. So, fundamentally, the nature of the idea was that we were going to have Isaiah in a studio somewhere for a finite period of time, a couple of days, and that we were going to try our darndest to make real-time, I guess, advertising where we could, in real time, respond to questions that people might have for this idyllic masculine character who we had created. And from when we were choosing and mining for the people that we were actually going to engage with, we made sure that we had a very good balance between celebrities and influencers and real people. So ultimately, I think we made 186 videos in 2.5 days. 70% of those videos were born out of questions that we had gotten from normal, everyday people, and 30% of those were directed at people who were either celebrities or we had deemed online influencers.
So I do this goatee that encircles my mouth so people pay attention to the words that come out. Just for you. And those words are, thank you. From massaging my ears with your compliment-laden Twitter prose. Things have been going great for me. In Eastern Latin, they love Old Spice body wash so much, they made me king.
A key piece was as the creatives and our digital team went through mining these questions that were coming in from consumers and influencers, obviously responding to some influencers that had, say, 1 million followers in different channels or friends, a key way that we were able to serve up and get the content distributed by them because they were personally engaged as we went through.
I won't go into too much detail here, but I actually was on set for 2 hours and was frankly just in disbelief of the beehive of creative activity that was going on there and how well it was being managed. I was very proud. But we had him sequestered in an undisclosed location in Portland. You'd be surprised how many people were actually trying to figure out where he was to come get a piece of Isaiah Mustafa. But we had, and this seems counterintuitive, an assembly line of creativity going on. So we had community managers and digital strategists who were constantly monitoring social media spaces for anything that might produce interesting fodder for a video. They were then sending those via a software that we had created over to the creatives who were picking the ones that had the most potential, they felt, from a comedy standpoint, and they then push that through to the account executive and our digital strategist who were well-schooled in the ER, ways of P&G to make sure that everything was sanitary and good for publishing. That then went into a queue where Isaiah was standing with a production team. He would do 1 run or 2 runs of the dialogue, and then the camera would roll, and that then got passed on to an editor who would clip it at both ends and post it online. And as a result, 186 response videos in 2.5 days, and a lot of those videos were produced in 10 minutes. It was pretty incredible.
As you can imagine, we didn't review any of the work as it was going out so quickly. So, as a marketer and a brand steward and an owner of a brand, to think about, you know, not reviewing 186 videos before it ever hits the marketplace, you have to let go of control, and you have to trust your partners intuitively, and have some great systems set up for kind of, don't talk about this, and maybe you can talk about this. And it just turned into great brand advertising versus talking about these little benefits which really weren't engaging to consumers.
Angela A. Hutt-Chamberlain, will you make J.S. Fields the happiest man in the world and marry him in real life? We'll be eagerly awaiting your reply.
So I opened with everything being rooted in your brand purpose, helping guys navigate the seas of manhood. I don't think there's anything that we could have done better as a brand in helping our consumers than this. And happily, we found out shortly afterwards that the marriage proposal was accepted. Very important part of that story.
So one of the really cool things about doing a campaign that gets as much attention is that the universe provides you with all of these really awesome graphs that you didn't have to build yourself. So one of these graphs is on the screen right here, and is just a tribute to how fast this actually took off. And frankly, we knew that this was an interesting idea, and we were really excited about it, but we had really no idea that it was going to gain the traction that it did prior to launching it. We hoped, but we didn't know. So this just goes to show you that the Old Spice response campaign actually took off in the first 24 hours, even more than Obama's victory speech, Bush dodging the shoe back at the press conference a couple of years ago, which a lot of people were excited about, and then also, you know, Britain's own Susan Boyle, which we know was an internet sensation.
I think that's deeply rooted in engaging our group and, you know, delighting them and getting key influencers to spread the content. You know, 130 million views, you know, or 140, I don't know what it is at this point, but, you know, if we think about the old advertising model of push, we've got a ton of consumers reaching out to us. Super Bowl gets 100+ million people to watch it. Now we've got those consumers going out and seeking out our advertising, much like Davey Boy, and trying to be entertained.
This graph just shows very quickly, you know, when you rely on traditional media, you have a lot of control as to where and when and how your message is viewed. But what this graph brings to life is that in a social media context, all of these dots are representative of people who kind of took our message and helped to spread it, and the way they helped to spread it varied. Some people just tweeted something and said, this is amazing. Other people wrote blog posts about it. And the size of the dot is representative of how much traffic they actually helped us create. So, you know, Alyssa Milano was clearly a big part of the campaign. But again, you have to be comfortable with this if you're going to embrace that new media paradigm.
We put together a couple quick lessons. We can fire them real quick, and maybe, Mark, we can go back and forth on some of them, or dialogue if you want to join us on stage. Or yeah, sure. So an integrated success story, obviously engagement across all mediums. We were using every outlet we could to reach out to consumers, and a key part of what we were doing. Talked about trust earlier. We didn't review any of the work.
Yeah. Briefs, again, I cannot express enough how important they are, that they're simple, single-minded, and that they actually solve a problem. And despite what some creatives might tell you, briefs can actually be really relieving and freeing if they are right. So in this case, that brief accomplished quite a bit for us.
For me, there's a lot of bravery involved. There's the bravery of, for example, just basically not going in with Super Bowl as a Super Bowl official campaign. But it stretches out, and I think the message that comes through most for me is the kind of loss of control. You didn't review any of 186 pieces of work over 2.5 days. You allowed other people to direct, people from outside, whether celebrity or real life people, to direct the kind of message of your next ad. So Alyssa Milano was brilliant to you and actually gave you her address so that those flowers did arrive, so that you can then make another piece to sort of bring the story on. But alarmingly insightful for P&G to be so open and free with one of its big campaigns. It's clearly seen the benefits. Do we need to relook at the way we train ourselves and prepare ourselves as marketers to kind of, you know, you still had traditional media in there, you still had some print ads to go with the Twitter stuff, but Do we need to think differently now and train ourselves about how we use marketing in a digital world?
I think, one of the things that is interesting to me, and somebody actually just asked me about this a little while ago, is when Cisco said that they were going to try to take the model that we had created specifically for the response campaign and try to duplicate it. And my initial gut reaction was, okay, maybe it'll do something, but I kind of figured it was doomed to failure. And the reason why is because what people seem to be missing is you can't just take this media model and apply it to something else. Because actually, what was at the heart of all of this and why it was so successful is not only because of the strategy, but also because the execution that existed in traditional media really endeared people to this character in such a way that he could then.
So one more question before we carry on through your lessons, because I can see we are running out of time. What's next? I mean, how does another brand, either another Wieden and Kennedy account or another P&G brand, go and do something similar? If we can't repeat and you've just sort of changed, been a part of a change in how marketing gets executed, how it can be real-time. Shivo spoke about real-time insight before. Now we're talking about real-time brand building. What's next? How do we move it on again?
I'd just go back to setting a really big, hairy goal and as a team, chase it together. The Wieden group all being together in a room, so from creative to planning to the groups that are executing, I think is a critical part of that once you set those big goals. So continue to do it, and you'll be amazed by our agencies and the creativity that they come up with.
Why don't we move on through the lessons?
So we mentioned this a little bit earlier, but we are very fortunate in our situation to have a lot of decision-making power within a very few entities. So clearly our brand team is involved in everything intimately, and then at Wieden and Kennedy we have creative strategy, all the digital duties, and the media planning and buying duties, and we have a very close relationship with Landor, who does the packaging, and with Payne PR, who do the public relations, and all of us worked very closely together to bring this thing to life every step of the way, and that is very critical to the success.
We started with big ideas this morning. Obviously, this is rooted in it. Worrying about the channel later is obviously not important.
Know the digital landscape. We have community managers on staff who are successful in managing communities because they're active in those communities. To similar what we've been hearing, you have to get out there and do stuff in order to know the right buttons to push.
Obviously, engaging with your consumers in a one-to-one dialogue, 70% of those videos, a huge part of its success. Everyone felt like they could be a part of it.
Give them what we want. At one point during the response campaign, the Reddit community, which actually, again, has a lot of traction, sent us requests for a video with Isaiah saying a specific letters of the alphabet and numbers so that they could create a voicemail application that people could then go on and program Isaiah and Mustafa to make their voicemail message. So we did that because they asked for it, and within 24 hours, the application was live.
Pretty straightforward. Train your people, which we started with, I think, and trust your gut. We saw Smell Like a Man idea. We knew it was going to work across all the mediums, and then trusted our creatives.
Tell me this, in the very, very short time we have left, is there a message for us in something you said right at the start, 15% decrease in media spend since 07-08? I mean, that's quite a result, right? I mean, is this a way that we can start looking at digital tools to kind of start with it not as cost savings, start with the big idea, but obviously that's got implications for the industry going forward, doesn't it?
I just think that, we talk about paid versus earned, and if you have a big idea and you are, and you understand, and it's rooted in insights, and you understand your consumer really well and how to communicate with them, they will participate as much as you want them to and encourage them to. And if that's a manifestation of what happens to your budgets over time, it's kind of so be it.